You are listening to Supplement Source, the official podcast of the Council for Responsible Nutrition. And now your host, Jeff Ventura.
Hello, and thank you for listening to Supplement Source. My name is Jeff Ventura. I'm the VP of Communications here at CRN, and it is my pleasure to be joined today by Ajay Patel of Verdure Sciences, along with his colleague, Bella Bucklew. Let's start with you, Ajay. Firstly, welcome. How are you?
Very good, and thank you, Jeff, for having me on your show.
Absolutely. Well, I mean, we're excited, of course, to learn a little bit about your company. I love coming in a little bit blind on these interviews because it helps me sort of kind of ask the right questions. So let's just level set and start out right at the beginning. Give me a little bit of background. What do I need to know? A brief overview of Verdure Sciences.
Yeah, so Verdure Sciences has been in the dietary supplement space now 28 years.
Wow.
Started in 1997, and our core focus is on Indian or Ayurvedic herbs and botanicals. And then in addition to that, we pay a lot of emphasis on supply chain mitigation, the optimization, the quality and compliance piece of it. And being a company that's globally positioned, it's very important for us to ensure that we are complying with all these different regulatory requirements on a global scale. And we also, over the years, have invested heavily in the science and technology side of things as it relates to our ingredients. We pay a lot of attention to the customer service aspect, and over the years, we've built a really, I would say, excellent customer service team at Verdure. In addition to that, over the years, we have built some really solid ingredient brands and really have brought in the longevity piece, which is so important. And I can recall one of our original brands, ingredient brands, going back 24 years. And then we have a couple of other brands that have been really successful over the years that have been in our portfolio 20 years, 15 years. So that's been really important for us, is to ensure that we have longevity in the business that we do, in the ingredients that we create, in the partnerships with the customers that we have forged over the years. Again, talking about alignment with the global supply chains, the strong relationships and partnerships have helped a lot, and having the on-the-ground presence is so important. So that's something that I and as a company we have really put a lot of emphasis and focus on, both from an internal standpoint as well as when it comes to our customers and third party. We are doing audits, so that's been really important for us, not just from a quality and regulatory standpoint, but also from an ESG standpoint, which is so important anymore.
Sure.
And really going to the seed to shelf model.
Yeah, no, well, and I'm still, that's all fantastic information. I'm still stuck on how long you've been around. Really, it's quite incredible. I mean, your company formed not long after Deshay passed. I mean, you've really been in the business, as it were, for quite some time. I actually personally, I worked at FDA and I took a trip to India, and I was amazed at how much herbs and just part of the culture there, right? And so this notion that you've kind of developed real solid science behind all of that is quite striking to me. Tell me a little bit about the procurement program, sustainable practices as an example. I mean, how do you keep things in line with sustainability principles? Absolutely,
and as you rightly mentioned, we've been doing this for quite some time. And building sustainable programs and the framework definitely takes time. It's a journey, and it begins with having strong partnerships and alignment with our manufacturing partners, and of course their supply chain partners all the way to the ground level. Since we're dealing with plants and botanicals, it's very important. Having the long-term commitments from the customers, is really critical, because a lot of it also begins with the customers and their requirements and are they willing to really commit. And so that's something that has really helped us to build these programs early on. The other thing that is really important is on the ground, how can we truly partner with the growers that are responsible for these programs and supplying us with not only high quality but consistent supply of these botanicals. So providing seeding materials, having on-site agronomists, also helping them with some post-harvest processing infrastructure, and then of course the utilization of technology So that's been a big piece as it relates to our programs over the years. And, one of the key aspects of all of this is, can we then provide fair wages and invest in the local communities of a lot of these growers that we are depending on, and where the supply chain begins.
I would be remiss without asking a few questions of your colleague, Bella Bucklew. Am I pronouncing that right, Bella?
Yes, that's correct.
Sustainability Coordinator at Verdure. Bella, tell us a little bit about the sustainability efforts.
Yeah, so our overarching sustainability program at Verdure is called Vertigration.
Love
there's
it.
Several tiers that fall into that. But I think the main overarching tier that I would want to touch on at the moment is our sustainable procurement programs. And ensuring in those programs, it really ensures, that we're providing the proper resources to these farmers, including, educational guidance, seedling material. But Ajay mentioned earlier, one of the biggest things that we're really pushing for is fair wages to these farmers and their workers.
Really fascinating. So tell me about what's next in terms of sustainability. What are you looking at going forward?
So, looking forward, I think we're definitely focused on deepening our Scope 3 emissions tracking. But I think more generally speaking, for, trends, expectations for customers, partners, there's definitely a shift towards transparency and accountability. I think that customers and partners are expecting traceability throughout our supply chain, and, having data-backed environmental impact reporting, such as Scope 3 emissions, such as lifecycle analysis.
It's a mouthful.
It is a mouthful. It provides a deeper understanding for sourcing practices. And we touched on certifications earlier. Certifications are still important, but increasingly I think stakeholders want to go beyond that level and really understand the full story behind the ingredient.
Yeah, that's so important too. I was watching a video, I think it was on your website, but it was just showing some footage from the farms on the ground, and it just struck me how decentralized that supply chain must be in some sense, right? I mean, you've got different regions, different plants, different agreements and arrangements with different farms. All of that really must require quite a degree of skill and vigilance to bring all of those different components into an alignment that not only sort of makes sense for your supply chain, but also that makes good sustainable practice. Tell me about how you, on top of that, install transparency and traceability to really a constellation of ingredients being sourced from all those different places. I mean, it's got to be quite a task.
Yeah, supply chains are very complex, especially when it relates to botanicals. It takes time, so you have to have patience. You have to really be committed, and you have to get buy-in all across the supply chains, the chain of custody. When it comes to the customers have to be willing to trust in your programs or your process. And they have to be able to then provide those commitments from which you can really take it to the next level when it comes to partnering with the downstream folks. And so having that buy-in from the customers is huge. And then supply chain partners that you have, the manufacturing partners, and then of course the growers, then working with them to ensure that, giving them the confidence of saying, okay, well, we are able to commit. We understand that you got all these challenges, and working with them. So we do this where we've got an internal sort of audit team that works directly with our manufacturing partners in India, as well as the growing communities, by visiting them on multiple occasions, multiple times a year, to ensure that there is alignment. And we are listening to them to understand if they are in need of certain things that will help them to improve on the practices that they have, and ultimately result in let's say, better outcomes of crops when it comes to the quality, when it comes to the consistency, then those are things that we really try very hard to align with our partners.
You say quality, and of course that always catches my ear, because obviously quality, when you're an ingredient supplier, I mean, you live or die by that, right? I mean, it really is at the core of most ingredient suppliers' value proposition. How do you convey quality to potential customers, and sort of how has that changed over the years? Has it changed because of the science evolving?
Yeah, so quality, when most of the folks think of quality, they think of a certificate of analysis for an ingredient, talking about an ingredient or a botanical-based ingredient. But it's so much more than that, because...
I'm interested in this. Tell me about this. I'm interested in this.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think at the end of the day, you can have third-party certifications, you can have a CFA that looks really good, but you need to ensure, again, how are you doing your tests? Are you aligned with the testing methodologies of what the regulators are looking at? And then you add to that piece the complex piece of global markets and requirement from a regulatory standpoint. So I think that becomes really important is, okay, do you really have the proper methodologies that you're testing by? Then you need to audit the supply chain. And so auditing the supply chain, again, we have third-party certification bodies is one thing, and there are several of them. Our facilities in India have NSF GMP certification, USP GMP certification. But beyond that, we need to look at our own specific needs, and we need to have the confidence for ourselves. Again, we've built this internal audit team that oversees the supply chain of our ingredients. The manufacturing partners that we have aligned with, in addition to the third-party oversight and audits, we have our internal due diligence that we do on multiple times a year. We have individuals that are on the ground and interacting, auditing our supply chain, both the manufacturing sites as well as the growing areas of these botanicals.
Well, and you say such an important word there, confidence. You talk about attaining that kind of internal confidence, and of course, that ultimately you want that to translate into external confidence, right? Where your customers are confident about the value of what they're getting from your products. I imagine that when you get that confidence level high internally, it's not easy, but it's certainly easier to convert that into the confidence that your customers ultimately have in your company.
Absolutely. I mean, it's taken us at least 10 years to build this internal audit team. An external audit company will go there for 2-3 days, once a year, once in 3 years. But having this internal oversight, every 3 to 4 months, we are on the ground for a couple of weeks at a time, evaluating, understanding, mitigating, and talking about, okay, what is it that we need to do to not only stay on par, but stay ahead. As we know, the dietary supplement industry, since the passing of Ajay, has evolved so much, with the FDA GMPs being enforced.
Evolving.
Evolving, absolutely. And it's great, because that really, like you mentioned earlier, that really keeps us on our toes, and more importantly, it really gives the confidence to us, and then we can have that, relate to our customers and our partners. And for that matter, we've been very fortunate to have several legacy customers that have been with us 20, 25 years. And we continue to, grow and build with them.
As we sort of near the end of this episode, I wanted to ask you, what are you looking forward to in your business model? What are you, when you look ahead, you're looking forward to, what's on the horizon? What is that thing?
The industry has evolved not only from a regulatory compliance side of things, but more importantly from the acceptance by the consumers for these amazing ingredients, especially from our plant botanical side of things. So the acceptance is growing, and that will bring growth in the market overall, which we have already seen, especially since COVID-19. So of course there'll be more and more regulations, there'll be more scrutiny, but the fact that the consumers are having confidence in our industry, in the products, in the ingredients, that's really great. and it motivates me and us as an industry. It should for everybody to see that this is a space that has got tremendous amount of potential, right? I mean, there's so much that we see coming. You see the sort of the crossing between the dietary supplement into the food, the functional beverages. There's so much that's happening with respect to these interesting ingredients going into different delivery formats. And so the future is really bright. Of course, we have to ensure that we are supplying high quality, traceable, ingredients that meet with a lot of different global regulatory requirements, because a lot of these brands are globally positioned. So for me, it's really exciting to see that in addition to a lot of these growing regulatory needs, there is a growing market that will take this industry to a whole different level.
Well, let me say, as someone who has an 80-year-old mother who called me the other day and asked me if I knew anything about ashwagandha, I can tell you that consumer interest and confidence is extremely high. So I think the future is very bright for this industry. Well, I just want to thank the both of you for joining Supplement Source today. It's so great to hear from Verdure. And please, by all means, come back on anytime you have something to share, any news that you have. We love hearing from our members. So thank you again, Ajay, Patel, and Bella Bucklew. We really do appreciate it.
Thank you so much, Jeff. It was a pleasure speaking with you today.
You too.
Thank you, Jeff. Appreciate it.
Thank you, both of you.